spiteful, gross, and it's also hurtful too. It's called gossiping. Perhaps if you looked it up, you would know it's wrong.
Gossiping. Why you wanna do that straight up gossiping? Girl, 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 tag, tag with me. Why you wanna tag all your girlfriends too? Tell them in a mass text that I love gossiping. On the beat.
Girl, why you backbiting, whispering, DMing, and talking, texting? I don't like that. It hurts my feelings. Girl, you always out there just straight gossiping. Why you wanna do it when I got you bling? Girl, you just out there just straight up gossiping.
Always out there in the streets just gossiping. Texting, 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 doing nasty things. All you wanna do is just straight gossiping.
Girl, why you wanna gossip? I took you on that trip. I gave you all that stuff, all that junk. And you just wanna gossip. Hurt my feelings, girl. Why you wanna do that to me? When I got you all those things. Got you all those things. Got you all the things.
Gossiping. Why you wanna hurt me with your gossiping? Backbiting ain't nothing to follow me. Backbite, DM, and texting. Why you wanna do that to me? Gossiping. Telling my friends I got a little bitty thing.
Gossiping and gossiping. Whispering and backbiting going pss, 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 pss. Rumors going crazy. It's like a fractal of rumors all around. Now the streets talk me down. They make fun of me because of you, girl. Please delete and remove all the texts that you sent out. I don't care to who. Just delete all of those bad feelings, girl.
Gossiping. Why you wanna be just straight up gossiping? Sending nasty text to my grandmama. Even Granny thinks that I'm a loser now.
Girl, why you wanna do that? It's just mean, straight up spiteful, gross, and it's also hurtful too. It's called gossiping. Perhaps if you looked it up, you would know it's wrong.
Gossiping. Why you wanna do that straight up gossiping? Girl, 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 tag, tag with me. Why you wanna tag all your girlfriends too? Tell them in a mass text that I love gossiping.
Ooh, I like this.
Pay piggy. Ooh, pay piggy. Just give me one more super chat. Pay piggy. Just give me one more super chance. Pay piggy. Band-aids don't give you AIDS. Pay piggy. Just give me one more super chance. Pay piggy. Just give me one more super chat. Pay piggy. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Pay piggy. Don't make me go back to 9 to 5. Pay piggy. Wage cock ain't no way to be alive. Hey piggy. Hey piggy. Don't make me go back to that 9 to 5. Hey piggy, I want to feel like I am so alive. Hey piggy, hey piggy, hey piggy, don't make me go back to my 9 to 5. Hey piggy, hey piggy. I like that. Actually, that's okay. I'm kind of liking that. AIDS. It just ends with AIDS. What's up? How y'all doing tonight? Welcome. I'm sure everybody is exuberant, is properly exfoliated in terms of the crustaceans of the day that stick to our soul. I'm sure you all have all exfoliated your bad feelings, and it's time to feel good. With me, your host, Dyer, Jay's Analysis. Hope you enjoyed the new hit songs. My EP is going to be out pretty soon. My EP. I'm just joking. Eventually I think we'll have one, but I don't have one really. So, something in my mouth. I got strong coffee. What'd y'all think of the songs? Are they a little too much? Somebody said, is this real or is this a joke? Some of y'all, there's just no hope. There's just no hope. I give up, dude. I give up. Tonight, Stranger Things season 4. Do a little bit of recap, but nostalgia. Playing on nostalgia. Why do we find nostalgia so moving? I think part of it is obviously just part of human nature, right? We are imprinted by our experiences in the past. They stay with us. Our memory, it's kind of stored in our soul. And nostalgia can be a very powerful tool. It can also be a way to manipulate people. So there's a psyops angle to nostalgia. We're not really going to be talking about that, although it does kind of relate to the actual research that, of course, Stranger Things does play upon, which is MKUltra. But not just MKUltra, other weird and out there programs. Oh, I remember what I forgot. The U.S. government's research into occult, into mentalism, mind control, mesmerism, remote viewing. These are classics of conspiracy. We can never forget the classics. When we cover these kinds of esoteric and out there topics, we can always forget the basics. Hello, SRI, Stanford Research Institute, remote viewing, Project Stargate, Uri Geller. Boom on them spoons, baby. Spoons are going down when Uri Geller comes to town. Spoon man, come together with your plan. Take me. No, wait, save me. Save me. I'm together with your plan. Spoon man. Little Soundgarden. That's the spoons in Spoon. That's my impression of Soundgarden spoons. Spoon Man. Spoon Man looked like a creepy dude, man. Spoon Man could be the villain in Stranger Things 5. Remember that guy in the video? Dude covered in tattoos that just flicks off with a bunch of spoons. That's weird, dude. People develop weird habits, weird things. That's carny level shit right there. What do you play? Spoons. What? Spoons. Forks? No. Spoons. Sporks? No. Spoons. Come together with your plan to save me. I'm together with your... I don't mind stealing bread from the mouth of diggity. But my cup's already out of hell. When my cup's already overfill. And I'm going hungry. Remember how weird Eddie Vedder acts? What a piece of garbage Eddie Vedder is, right? I don't mind stealing bread from the mouths of diggity. But I can feel the fire hell when my cup's already overfilled. And the farmer baby says are all working, choking. I remember one time I had long hair, and I was doing my video. I did a little video with a guitar, and I was singing Temple of the Dog. I've never known what any of the lyrics are in Temple of the Dog. I have no idea what the lyrics are. I just know it's something about food, slaves in the field, people are rich, and not helping out the poor people. Well, thankfully, we have zillion-dollar rock stars to preach economic morals to us, like Ed Vedder. But we do have to give some props to old, what's his name? Kris Kringle. Chris what's his face? Because he was apparently getting into orthodoxy on his deathbed. So props to him for that. Hopefully it was all sincere. I hope he's with the Lord. You know what I'm talking about. Chris what's his face? Kris Kringle from Soundgarden. No, it's not Scott Stapp. But you know, all of those people kind of had that voice. Stone Temple Pilots, Scott Weiland, was trying to sing like Eddie Vedder. And then the Creed dude just kind of had the same thing, right? Yes, Chris Cornell. Kris Kringle. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's gonna bring you something brown. You've got a stocking full of shit. It's because you were bad as heck this year. All improv all the time. People say, do you write your songs? Bro, I make that on the spot. I make that up on the spot. None of it is written down. Even though, cause we're like butterfly here. Oh, we don't know. So he chases them away, yeah. In my way, yeah. Jeremy Spoker. I can't talk about that one. Pretty obvious why, right? Kris Kringle. You're gonna put something brown in your stocking because you've been a bad kid this year. We went from, how did we get to Spoon Man to Soundgarden and Kris Kringle of Soundgarden? I don't know. Ed Vedder. Well, speaking of high school, it makes me think of high school. Because Stranger Things takes place during high school in the 80s. I'm a child of the 80s, so it does ring true with me in terms of nostalgia. We were talking about nostalgia. Because it has a powerful effect. And nostalgia can be manipulated, but nostalgia, I think, gives us a sense of temporality. We realize the fleeting nature of this life, how we will die. We will move on. We will no longer have Spoon Man to listen to when we pass on. And so nostalgia is emotionally moving because we realize that life is fleeting. That's one thing I think makes nostalgia emotionally moving and powerful, right? I think if you're a little more of a artsy, fartsy, right brain creative type of person, things you feel a little more attachment, a little more emotion to these kinds of things. And going back and watching this, I started realizing there's some pretty crazy stuff in this. For example, they really do have programs where they pick out gifted people, especially gifted children, right? Yes, there's this dumb new age thing. Indigo, I'm an indigo child. Like, I could see people's auras, and like I could tell right now that you're radiating a light burnt sienna color right now out of your aura. And so like that means you're in a bad mood. No, I'm not talking about that. But there really are programs where they do, I think, not just track and trace potential future leaders, etc., in terms of DNA, but perhaps also special gifts. Now, I know that at least in the case of high IQ children and specifically artistically gifted children, there are those programs. Many of those programs are public. We know about I know about MKUltra. We're going to get into that in a moment, but there are programs like the GATE program. That is a UN-based program. I was in that program in California, so I know about that one. And they would kind of take you and put you in these special classes. Not the slow boy classes, the special fast boy classes. That's what I'm talking about, right? And they would also do it for different types of people, right? So it wasn't just programs for, high IQ math dorks that could do, algebra in kindergarten or whatever. But they had gifted classes and special programs in California, which was a pioneer of all the most, cutting edge type crap for artistic kids too. So I was actually in a performing arts elementary. So they had in California, they had performing arts elementary schools, which was a cutting edge thing, trying to pick out who might be doing artsy fartsy things in the future. And I was always drawing, and I was always a artsy kid, right? So I got put into those programs. And then they would pick future leaders out of those programs too. So now, before people get too conspiratorial, I was not mind controlled. I don't remember any. I mean, maybe I'm a sleeper cell or whatever. I don't remember any overt mind control. But really what that program was that I remember was really just about kind of promoting the UN agenda, like a global world religion type agenda. So they would really stress the arts. They would really stress indigenous art, every culture's art, right? Because they're all equal. They're all whatever. And so that was really hammered home. But we were doing some pretty wild, ahead of time stuff that most 5th, 6th graders didn't do. So like we had, we would just sit and read books actually, which is kind of weird, for several hours of several days. A lot of times we could pick, which is weird. I think it was kind of experimental too. We could pick what books you wanted to read. So I was usually picking, like sci-fi. I remember that was where I first started reading The Lord of the Rings, I think about 5th grade. And they were like, yeah, you can pick whatever you want to read. So I'm not 11, but clearly there are these types of programs. Now, I can extrapolate from what I do know about in the UN Connected Gate program and whatnot out in California, that there probably are several other types of programs that we don't know about. Now, there was a boarding school network that was busted for doing a lot of abuse and this kind of stuff in the 70s and 80s that people think might have been connected to MKUltra. Very possible. I don't know for sure. People have gotten mad at me in the fact, like, why won't you ever talk about the boarding school? Like, I don't know that much about it. And I wasn't in boarding schools for, because I wasn't a damn delinquent, boy. That's why. You were a freaking Juvie skank. I wasn't a juvie skank. I'm sorry. Not my fault. I was a weird indigo child. Not really, but I'm just saying. So, no, I don't know about juvenile delinquent people. But I'm not surprised that juvenile delinquents in the 70s and 80s were probably put into boarding schools that were connected to various programs. And remember, too, that, from the extensive research that we've done into MKUltra, a lot of the doctors and people in the compartmentalized sub-projects, they didn't know what they were in, right? They didn't know they were part of a big, giant, global program. They thought, oh, we're getting money to study sleep illnesses, sleep deprivation. We're going to study this. We're going to study that. So I didn't know that all this research was going to be collated for giant MKUltra program. And if you followed this year recently, was it this year? Yeah, I think a couple months ago, I went pretty deep on Rockfin into, and I can never remember the name of all the podcasts that we do. I don't think it was this one. We went into, this was the 3-hour overview of MKUltra. This was part 2 of it over here on Rockfin. It's on the website too, but I went deep into the MKUltra in Australia, right? And remember that those programs, which nobody even really knew until recently, some guy a few years ago wrote a pretty in-depth 100-page book that's available online that's pretty well sourced about MKUltra projects in Australia, which nobody knows about. Hardly anybody knows about. So we did a whole review of that book. We broke it down over on Rockfin, but I can't remember what I named it. Maybe if you put in MKUltra, Australia, you'll get that. But remember too that we found in that case there was one of the serial killers that we had not heard of, who was a famous Australian serial killer who was an MKUltra doctor. Remember him? Harry something. And he was doing sleep studies. Remember that? And he ended up, in his MKUltra research, he had killed a bunch of people in his sleep clinic by like bringing them to the point of coma and death and then trying to wake them up. If you remember that ridiculous Netflix series from some years ago, the OA, which you're watching, it's like, whoa, this is like crazy good, right? And then by the end of the first season, a spoiler alert, it ends up being stopping a event at a school by doing synchronized dancing, which was terrible, just really dumb. But up until that point, that was a really good show. And it had Britt Marling in it, that blonde chick that's always in the parallel universe movies. She's in like 50 parallel universe movies. So somewhere there's a universe where she's just in a regular movie, right? But every movie she's in like all of these. And that was the whole premise of that show. It ended up getting canceled, I think, after 3 seasons. So I watched the second season, and it was like she was trapped in some other dimension or something. I don't know. That stuff gets old after a while, but so in regard to Stranger Things, after looking back on the analysis that we did of Stranger Things about 5 years ago, right? It's been, how long ago was that, dude? A long time. Let's see. Does this even have a date on it when I did this originally? 2016. Okay, so our first Stranger Things analysis was 6 years ago. And it was one of the first videos that we did, kind of trying to integrate video analysis into what I do. So about 6 years ago of this. And here we are, 6 years later, season 4. And I've read and learned a lot more about MKUltra than I knew in 2016. So I know a lot more. So I think looking back, reviewing this, I did get to watch some of season 1. I've not finished all of season 1. And I don't think all of season 4 is out yet, right? Aren't there still 2 to go? So we got a little ways to go. And I may just, somebody said I look like Zelensky. I may just give me my heels on. I'll be with y'all in a minute. I gotta put my heels on. I gotta put my face on. Be ready to dance for y'all. But anyway, all right. Let's just get into it because I don't know how to. So, recapping, if you recall, we know that the first season was about, and I'm not going to recap every season. I'm just going to go back to my analysis. Hopefully, you guys can see that. We'll review a little bit. I did not care for the second season. This third season was pretty good at the mall. It was all right. But so we're playing on nostalgia, going back to Dungeons and Dragons. And by the way, this is all real. If you remember high school was a freaking click factory, dude. Like, you do not violate the hierarchy of high school, right? And I was trying to explain this to Jamie because Jamie was homeschooled, and she's always mystified by my explanations of high school. And she's like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, it doesn't have to make sense. There's a rigid hierarchy. If you're a nerd, you don't sit at the popular kid table. And she's like, why? Because you will get the chicken nuggets in your face. That's why. You can't just go sit at the popular kids table. That's a rigid rule of high school. For example, you don't park where the seniors park. There's a hierarchy. You go park where the seniors park, you're going to get a freaking wedgie or a broke nose or a car covered in any number of strange substances. You don't do that, right? So high school has a strict hierarchy. It's always had that. And high school is really a microcosm of the macrocosm, right? I mean, the world really is just kind of like what high school is like. It doesn't really ever change. So I started my analysis talking about Dungeons and Dragons role playing. That was actually kind of popular a few years ago in Hollywood. People were all into this. All into Dungeons and Dragons. Dungeons and Dragons, which does come up in season 4 as part of the Satanic Panic, really was part of the Satanic Panic back in the day. I remember when I first heard about Dungeons and Dragons, I thought that sounds cool because I was a little on the nerdy side. Now, I was a cool nerd, but still on the nerdy side, right? Like, if you were in high school and you're reading Tad Williams and Terry Brooks and Tolkien, you're a nerd, right? But you can still kind of get by if you have other talents. Perhaps if you play basketball, which I did. So I wasn't totally pigeonholed into nerd. I ended up in the theater, weird, artsy crowd in high school. Okay, so weird, cool guy vibes. But he also plays basketball, so he's kind of on a little bit of jock in there. So, but he also, what else did I do? Theater. So the theater kids are kind of nerdy too, but not nerdy in the way that like the math kids are nerdy, right? Not the kids that literally read encyclopedias, nerdy, and not the anime people. When I was in high school, if you did anime, that was like slow boy class. I'm not joking. Like, that was the dude who did the drove around everywhere like he had a motorcycle, like in Malcolm in the Middle. I'm not joking. His name was Nathan. There was a dude just like that. That was the dude in the one dude in high school into anime in the 90s. Okay. So I do like the portrayal of high school in the 80s in Stranger Things is pretty good. I think they overdo the conspiracy. Like, they just pack too much conspiracy 80s horror crap into it. And season 4 is a little more like a horror movie. Okay, so it's a little more Hellraiser, Freddy, It, right? It's like all of that. That's my one main criticism of season 4 so far. I liked season 1 being a little more restrained, a little more Goonies-ish, a little more Spielberg Goonies type thing going on in season 1. Season 2 and then season 3 brings it kind of back to that 80s aesthetic with everything being at the mall. It's a very Spielbergian season 2. But again, 4, it's like, and they reference literally like every horror movie, right? So Freddy comes up, Michael Myers comes up, John Carpenter comes up, The Thing comes up. The villain is very much a Pinhead kind of villain, right? I mean, it's It's very, very pinhead, which is okay. I mean, whatever. But I did have to mention some of that stuff about the my own experiences in goofy New Age elementary school. But let's keep in mind, as we said, the focus of this series that is where it's real is the MKUltra project. And in fact, in season 1, if you guys recall, we have an explicit reference to MKUltra where it actually says, well, it says MKUltra, right? There's a point where they're researching and they find that MKUltra is related to what the Department of Energy is up to. And I think it makes a reference to Montauk, right? Project Montauk. Another one of these sort of kind of out there fringe things where the government is supposed to be investigating ET phenomenon, interdimensional type phenomenon. And if we all know about Jacques Vallée, right? Because Jacques Vallée is one of the deep state figures who was a computer science DARPA guy who then got into Rosicrucianism and then came to believe in interdimensional entities. And most famously, he's one of the inner core government type people who says that this is not an extraterrestrial thing. It's a earthly terrestrial thing where there's interdimensional entities, right? That's his view. And he's very famous. In fact, the figure in Close Encounters, played by Truffaut, if I remember correctly, right? That's based. He's supposed to be Jacques Vallée, the French guy. That figures out the do 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 do, right? So all of that was coming out in the 80s. I remember, right? And you can't overestimate. I mean, 80s was like huge with alien stuff, right? As a kid in the 80s, I mean, Star Wars, E.T., Close Encounters. I know Close Encounters in the 70s, but it was still very popular in the 80s. I mean, it was very much an alien decade. And it's curious, too, because at the same time, that's when these things started really coming out, 80s and 90s. They just took it to the next level with the alien phenomena, the interdimensional entities. But as we said, this idea of Montauk, well, even Vallée says Montauk is a hoax, it's not real. But he goes on to talk about these different experiments that Raytheon was involved in. Now, sometimes when there's these wild stories like, we're going to do Philadelphia experiment and like zap a dude from here to over there or whatever, or we're going to try to mess with space-time. That's all disinformation cloak for what they're really doing, which is probably something relating to mind control, right? Things that are a little more plausible, a little more realistic, rather than beaming people to places. Okay, that's not very realistic. Could that exist? Maybe. But there's no evidence of this. Okay, so I'm not going to go beyond what I can, in some way at least, document. But what I can document is human experimentation, MKUltra, radiological experimentation, radiation experiments, on and on and on. That we know is real. And so I did bring all of these parallels up. Are there interdimensional gates? I don't know. But the show does at least play on all of these just extremely popular ideas in the 80s. And in this original setup, we have the idea that the Demogorgon, who they inadvertently invoke or tap into through playing Dungeons and Dragons, lives in this B dimension, universe B, the upside down, the in-between, various terms that you could use. And as I noted in my analysis, this actually corresponds to something in the Kabbalah, right? This idea of the abyss, the Qliphoth, the Dayot, the little dark dimension, which is supposedly the Kabbalistic structure of the various worlds and dimensions. Supposedly. Okay. I'm not saying that that's true. I'm saying that that's how that system proposes to structure the world. So a lot of these shows do reference these types of things. Okay. And I think there's something, at least in principle, true about this, that yeah, we do have, there's this world and there's the spiritual world, and the spiritual world can be many different types of things, right? You can have a positive spiritual world where you're with angels, and then you can have a negative spiritual world where you're with the demonic. So I do at least like that element of hell world, right, being present here in this show. Again, hearkening to something like Hellraiser. And we do have references to the abyss. We have references to the psychosphere. You ever thought about the psychosphere? Right. To quote Matt McConaughey. But as I said, remember, what we do know about MKUltra does tell us that they experimented on even kids at times. That is mentioned by this goon in his books, John C. Lilly. And the more I watch the show, especially this new season, did you notice that when his name is Brenner, right, the old guy who's the sort of handler that runs the childhood MKUltra program, do you remember that the first thing you see is him doing a crossword puzzle, and he writes Leary, Tim Leary. We're supposed to associate him with Timothy Leary, which is all the more interesting because Winona Ryder, one of the stars of this series, her godfather was Tim Leary. But the more I thought about it, float tanks play a big role in this. And float tanks come from John C. Lilly, right? This is old lunatic psychonaut John C. Lilly with his inordinate crush on the dolphins, and which we covered in his biography, autobiography. Who wrote the introduction to his autobiography? Tim Leary. And what does Tim Leary say? Tim Leary says that John C. Lilly is the new Aleister Crowley for our era. Literally explaining that this is a Crowleyan thing. But John C. Lilly brags and says, oh yes, by the way, I am the father of the think tank. I mean, not the think tank, the float tank. And we've covered all this, right, many times, but this is just a little refresher. Here in his autobiography is psychonaut John C. Lilly talking about the float tanks. And there is the movie Altered States, right, with, is it William Hurt? Didn't William Hurt just pass away? That's weird. Is it William? It's William Hurt, right? Or is it, am I backwards? Who's in freaking Altered States? Anyway. But the whole thing is, I mean, that looks like it's straight out of the movie there, right? That's one of his tanks, I guess, that you get in. Anyway, you trip acid and you float in this tank, and then you interact with entities. That's the whole thing. And that's exactly what they're doing with L. Now, the reason I brought up Lilly, though, why I think Lilly, I think that the Brenner character is sort of a combination of John C. Lilly and Leary, is because Lilly in this book, Programming and Metaprogramming in the Human Biocomputer, is where he mentions that he did in fact dose and experiment on children. And so, yes, there is some reality to this idea of these creeps using trauma-based mind control programming on kids. That's page 126 and 127 of Quack Coombe Creeper John C. Lilly's book. So this is all very real. Now this movie is not real because obviously it exaggerates all this stuff and puts it into a very Hollywood Demogorgon, right, ethos. But originally they want to use L or 11. She's called L, which by the way is obviously connected to Elohim. She is a kind of demigoddess, you could say. Her character is an evolved human being who's developing powers. Typical 80s Spielbergian, Stephen King type of story, right? But what they want her to do is spy on Soviets. So she's actually intended originally to be a spy, psychic spy. Guess what? That's all real too. Project Stargate, remote viewing, Stanford Research Institute. Again, Uri Geller was part of this. He was studied in that program. So the shadow government under the guise of the Department of Energy is running all of this. Now, guess what? This is all real. Our buddy Mark Hackard did an excellent translation back in 2016 of the Kremlin's Psi Spies. So the Kremlin had their own remote viewing programs that mirrored the U.S.'s Stanford Research remote viewing Stargate programs. Isn't that interesting? Now, how successful they were, I don't know. If you read the documents, they talk as if there was success in the remote viewing. But how accurate it was, how flimsy it was, hard to say. Again, sometimes they will declassify documents that are not real, right? They'll declassify some of this bullshit for the purpose of disinfo. So sometimes that happens too. For example, with alien crap, right? Sometimes the alien UFO crap that's declassified is just to further the alien UFO narrative, which we've covered that ad infinitum. I'm not going to cover that again. Everybody here should know my view on that. But by the way, if you do want to support the show, you can do so through super chats. You can send a super chat at any time. If you're watching this 1 million years from now, you can send a super chat right there still through Streamlabs. If you're watching this a week from now, you can send a Streamlabs super chat, and I will still read it. And it looks like everybody's being kind of stingy. Now we got one super chat tonight. One super chat, just stingy. But that's okay. If you guys want me to crawl away, hovel away into the corner and weep because you don't give me the pay piggy super chats, that's your free will. I guess I have to live with it. But then again, I did do a lot of singing, and you got free Chris Kringle. You got free Ed Vedder today. I mean, usually when I start singing, the super chats flow, but maybe you guys just weren't ready for Ed Vedder. I don't know. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention the Satanic Panic. That will take place in season 4. So the setting is the Satanic Panic, which is interesting because I do remember that in the 80s. Although, again, I was too young to really know what was going on and what that was all about, but that was definitely a real thing. By the way, here is I'm going to tell you my theory on the Satanic Panic here in a second. There is Mark's article that he translated about the Soviet Psi Spies and the psychotronic weapons program that they tried to master. If you remember in the terrible Indiana Jones 4 with the Crystal Skulls, that was the Kate Blanchett character's program, was the Psi Spies of the Soviets. Kremlin Psi Spies. That's what her character was. Anyway. So, in regard to season 1, I argued that really this was all about, there is the MKUltra reference, by the way, from season 1, which tells us, yes, absolutely, it's explicitly all about this. By the way, interesting side note, they do couch programs under weird sections of the government that you wouldn't expect. So sometimes things are classed under Department of Energy, like this kind of thing, as a kind of cover, right? Well, they wouldn't be experimenting in this is the Department of Energy. They're just concerned with having our lights stay on. Right? That's what normies think, right? But no, they actually do cloak programs under things like this. And you could think of things like the Star Wars Defense Initiative being birthed at Bohemian Grove. A lot of people don't know that, but that was actually dreamt up at Bohemian Grove, put into place through the Reagan government, and that was all part of DARPA. So the early phases of DARPA, they were like, well, early phases created the internet, right? So that's ARPA, that becomes ARPANET, and then that becomes DARPANET, and then that becomes Internet. But that was really kind of in the background of the Reagan administration. It was very much a military-industrial deep state complex government, for sure. Very much, as we said, the Rand Corporation really stoking and engineering this managed dialectic between the Free West and the Soviet atheist empire. And that's the setting for Stranger Things, which is interesting because in the narrative, the Russians are kind of bad guys, but not the real bad guys. And in regard to reality, in my view, yeah, that's kind of true. Sovietism and atheism were terrible, but the Western materialism is just as much a materialist satanic system as is Soviet diamat or histmat, right? Historical materialism or dialectical materialism. Both of them are versus monopolistic capitalism. They're all materialistic atheist systems. And so ultimately they're both satanic and it's part of a dialectic. I don't know. Why did I get into the... Oh, I forgot that Demogorgon is in Spencer's Fairy Queen, which, by the way, I did a whole grad class on Edmund Spencer's Gigantor esoteric Fairy Queen narrative, which is supposed to be Virgil's Aeneid for the British Empire. So it gives the British Empire its whole mythological narrative. It didn't really achieve that, but that's what it was written to be. He was commissioned to do that. I believe under Elizabeth, if I remember correctly. Is that right? She's the Fairy Queen, right? This weirdo woman. But his book 4, Canto 2 reads, down the bottom of the deep abyss. So we're in the abyss. This is the realm of the demonic. We could say also that the in-between is also the abyss. In fact, in season 4, they actually have to go into the lake to enter one of the gates, one of the hell mouths, for those that know Buffy the Vampire Slayer, one of the hell mouths into the upside down. By the way, did you remember that high-level occultist Crowleyan Kenneth Grant in his books talks about the mauve zone, Universe B? And what color is it? Well, I guess it's mauve. It's called the mauve zone. And we drew heavily from that when we were analyzing Twin Peaks season 3. Because if you remember, when we find Coop, it takes a couple seasons or a couple episodes for us to find the real Dale Cooper, and he's in some weird interdimensional plane, and it looks purple. It's the mauve zone or something, right? So we drew from that. Similar things going on here in Stranger Things season 4 and in season 1. But let's see, I'm moving through. Oh, then we start to bring in the serial killer and occult element in season 4. By the way, the Demogorgon there, as you can see, is a manifestation of chaos. No. Well, yes, but no. Chaos, right? And my analysis was that basically you have a Gnostic inversion. So L is a female, and she comes to overthrow in a kind of Pistis Sophia, sacred feminine, overthrow the patriarchal non-god, right? The god of the abyss, and you see in this sort of cruciform pose. So I read season 1 in a very Gnostic way. Season 4, again, we don't know how it's going to end, or at least I don't, because I only saw the first 7. I thought there was only 7, and then I'm watching it, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like an ending. And it's like, oh no, there's 2 more, which I got confused. So I guess there's 2 more that have not been released. I don't know. I couldn't find them, but maybe they're going to end it like a movie, like a 2-part, like the last 2 will be like a movie. I don't know. But again, point of all this is just to say that, where was I going? Where's the government thing? Yeah, this is based in reality. This is mainline essays, mainline journals, not conspiracy texts. This is the New Republic. Why the U.S. government embraced the occult. New book chronicles decades, not just a year, not just 2 programs, not just Men Who Stare at Goats, which is another version of this. Decades trying to weaponize the occult. And this paper, by the way, this essay goes on to mention also, I believe, satanic cults. Well, there's no shocker to us, right? We know this. But it mentions the ones that you heard me mention already, such as Stargate. We all know about MKUltra. I've covered it many times. Mentions Annie Jacobson's book on this stuff, Paperclip. But if you guys remember, I analyzed her whole 500-page history of DARPA. I read the whole 500 pages of her DARPA book, and there's a section or almost a full chapter, I think, on MKUltra in her book. I've not read her book on Paperclip, so I don't know about that. But you'll notice here, look at this. In the 50s, the Department of Defense went to Andrea Puharich, who was a weirdo, who comes up in the Sinister Forces trilogy multiple times, utilizing mushrooms and unlocking psychic powers. So Puharich was part of some sub-project of MKUltra, and this even mentions that. And guess what? It was classed under here. Atomic Energy Commission. What is going on in Hawkins, Indiana? In the show. Department of Energy. It's under the Energy Commission. Department of Energy. Anyway, so they were exploring channeling. They were exploring... this is where you get the mythology of the 9. Gene Roddenberry was part of the circles of these people involved in channeling, which is weird because he presented himself as a rank atheist, yet he's part of circles that are doing channeling. And by the way, many of the Star Trek, the original series and Next Generation episodes contain like overtly Gnostic themes. Because they're not strict atheist shows. So, was Gene Roddenberry actually an atheist, or was he more of a Luciferian Gnostic? So, of course, as we know in many cases with this Cold War stuff, the U.S. was saying, "Oh, we have to do this because if we don't create spies, the Soviets will." Right? And the Soviets, if we don't create the spies, the Americans will. Hey, Jamie. I had to tell her to bring the charger because my computer's about to die. I always forget to bring it in here. I'm talking about Hezbollah in this article. That's crazy. What does Hezbollah have to do with any of this? Anyway, Colonel Higgins was kidnapped by Hezbollah? It's bizarre. This is an old article. I need to reread this article. Thank you. Yeah. Just plug that in over there. By the way, if you're a subscriber on Rockfin, if you missed this, I'm going to link you guys this one right here because this is the lecture where I went really deep into the totality of MKUltra. There's another one at Rockfin about Australia, which is equally as important, that I do recommend. But I don't remember what, here it is. This is it. If you want to go deeper into this, I recommend that one. Go to Rockfin and check out that about the history of MKUltra operations in Australia. Pretty sure that's it. So 2 really good in-depth analyses. Oh, by the way, yes, El, her name is Canaanite deity. So I think they're trying to flip it and like El, the Canaanite deities use the term El as in Elohim, but the Bible uses that for not just the higher beings, but the Most High, right? El Elohim, the Most High God. This is going to cut off 1970s. And this ties into Stanford Research Institute. This ties into remote viewing. This ties into Men Who Stare at Goats, which I'm sure everybody's familiar with. This is Project Stargate. And it was also under various other names: Gondola, Stargate, Grill Flame, Center Lane, Sun Street, Scanate, and finally consolidated and released as Stargate. The work primarily involved remote viewing and purported to study the abilities of people to physically see events or sites or information at a great distance. This is, of course, exactly what you see 11 doing in every season, but in season 1 especially, right, when she's in the float tank and when they're trying to study her abilities. And they were really trying to find people that, study to see if this was real, find out who had these abilities, who didn't. Major General Stubblebine was a big part of this. And if you remember, over the years, Lord Voldemort has had him on before he passed away. He passed away a few years ago, but again, keep in mind, all this very much real stuff. Stargate project was terminated and declassified in 1995 after the CIA concluded that it was never useful in any intelligence operation. Again, is that true? We don't know. There was another declassified thing that Isaac covered. Hey, Jamie, what was that thing Isaac covered about the meditation? Project Gateway. That's another one that's relevant to this. And by the way, I'm not saying that I know whether these projects actually produced real results or if they're just BS, right? Again, there are declassifications of bullshit programs for disinformation. That does exist. And I'm sorry that exists. I can't. We're always limited in our, normie public citizen role to know exactly which of these projects were real, authentic, produced results, or just were totally scrapped because they were a waste of time. But you'll notice this is a real thing. It's a 1983 declassified document. I would assume related to similar types of projects like this. And it's called, I just went blank, Gateway. So Project Gateway is the gateway process. It's a very bizarre document, and it's got these sort of diagrams where they're like charting the sections of the brain and what's affected when you meditate and biofeedback and like a lot of really kind of out there stuff, right? Again, how legitimate and authentic the effects of this were, I have no idea. But these are real studies. And again, it's entirely possible that all of these studies produced no effects, or all of these studies produced real effects. But just like in my view, Blue Book, MJ12, in my view, those are fake documents declassified to give the appearance of the reality to the alien mythology. See what I mean? You got these weird kind of grids and who knows if this is real. Can you tap into dimensions, right? So the only reason I'm bringing this up now is that this is what Stranger Things, right? Can you tap into the dimensions? This is Project Gateway. Now that we postulate the legitimacy of the assertion of energy forms, which compose consciousness, can move beyond time-space dimensions, we need to turn our attention to the energy forms. And this looks like some weirdo just drew this, right? Why'd you sketch this out? Like you couldn't get a graph made? I mean, maybe in 1983 you had to sketch stuff out when you wrote a paper. I don't know. But you see how kind of out there this is. And then it goes into studying out-of-body experiences here in regard to meditation. The absolute, which I think is sort of a stand-in for God or some sort of ultimate reality they talk about in this document. It's just kind of out there, right? It's just, to me, it sounds like quack shit, honestly. Time space is evolving, man. It's like any weirdo on the internet with a GeoCities webpage, right, who did DMT 15 times, would be sketching out all this kind of crazy bullshit, which is probably bullshit, right? But again, I don't know. So you can make your own mind up what you think Project Gateway was or wasn't. If you want the document, here it is. Again, public declassified document. Is it real? Is it all disinfo? I don't know. I have no idea. Is it a bunch of jibber jabber? Probably. But we do know that Stargate, right, is a real program. And I do have read some of those documents, and they do talk about claiming to have some success when it came to the remote viewing. As it notes, it was originally 1972 at Stanford Research Institute. By the way, SRI plays a big role in, as we've seen, being connected to Disney. SRI is connected to social engineering. SRI pioneered a lot of the white papers in regard to restructuring society. The Changing Images of Man is a big, important SRI connected document, which we've covered many, many times. Tavistock connected to that. So SRI directly ties into a lot of the, as I told you guys, international celebrity Uri Geller right here, the Spoon Man right there, part of SRI, as I told you. And then we see Hal Puthoff being mentioned again, who we saw earlier. And this was all connected to ARPANET. Excuse me. Supposedly, they said that Geller was a fraud. There's a whole other kind of quack book I read many years. I read like a 500-page book years and years ago on Project Stargate. So it went into all this stuff. I should have got that book out, but I forgot about it. But anyway, this is the whole point of all this, is that this is the background to this show. So we don't know as normie citizens exactly how far these projects went, what they did or didn't discover, unless you take the government at their word and just believe everything they say, that nothing came out of this and none of it is true. Okay, well, whatever. Think what you will. I don't think the government has a very good track record in telling the truth. Do you think that they do? What do you guys think? I'm skeptical that they have psychic spies. I mean, that sounds kind of goofy, right? But by the way, it's a weird thing as we were watching this, and as you guys know, I was about to do analysis of Inception, Dreamscape, Brainstorm, which are movies also about this stuff, very similar to Stranger Things, obscure movies. And I was watching Dreamscape, and I'm like, oh, they're trying to make freaking Randy Quaid into a psi spy. Right. At first, they think they want him to be a psi spy for the government, and it's a government program. Then it turns out, no, we want you to be a psychic assassin. And then in Stranger Things season 4, we find out, oh, they actually want to make Elle into a psychic assassin. And we find out that the Brenner character, the handler, the Tim Leary, John C. Lilly handler doctor, has been. This came up in season 2, right? He would take the babies from the women at the nursery. So they were picking these children, putting them into these programs. We do know that kind of stuff happened for real. Project Monarch, we know that existed according to John C. Lilly, that he would experiment on children. We know that Creeper Alfred Kinsey would do creeper stuff as well. You can figure out what I'm talking about. So this kind of thing does exist. I don't know how extensive it is. I don't know how many kids or anything like that. The Finders, remember this came out? The Finders also, intelligence run, mind control cult, that came out, declassified. So that exists. That's real. We know about that. And if we think back to season 2, that's what happened with Elle, right? She was taken from her mom at the nursery when she was a baby, when she was born, put into this program. Very similar to these programs that were real. Cold War setting, covered all that. Let's see, what else? Universe B, Mob Zone, covered all that. Experiments on gifted children, indigo children. I'm not sure what I think about that, but I think that probably what they're doing is trying to steer future leaders, as we said, into the agenda, right? That's what I think this is all about. And we find out there was an opera. I forgot about this. Nina. And the reason this matters is a big clue, because her handler mentions this opera. Nina. And we find out that she's in Project Nina early on, and it becomes clear later on because he eventually explains to her what this program is. And it's about the storing and holding in of trauma-based mind control. John C. Lilly talks about it at the end of this book. So this is a real thing. And he was part of MKUltra. Okay, this is real. This is a real book. This is an unreadable, crazy book. But what you can make out of it backs this up. And if you'll notice, this plot is referenced by Brenner, her handler. Was it not going to tell us the plot? Okay, well, I guess Wikipedia is not going to tell us the plot, but he explains the plot is that the character suppresses and doesn't know her trauma. And so it's stored away in an alternate personality, and that's exactly what happens with Elle, right? 11 has suppressed her trauma. She doesn't know the history of what actually happened at the facility when she broke free. And we find out that it was because there was a series of attacks. She thinks that she's guilty, that she's done it, but no, it turns out it was this villain who is also the interdimensional entity known as, what's his name? Vecna? Something weird. I wrote it down, but now I can't find where I wrote it. Vecna. Vecna's curse. Okay. Turns out, long story short, I'm going to spoil it a little bit for you. Vecna was a child also put into the program who is number 1. So 11 is the 11th child in this experimental program. Vecna is child number 1 who has developed these abilities to essentially murder through spy stuff. Oh, I don't remember what I was going to say. Do you remember the movie Scanners? David Cronenberg. What do we see in Scanners? Well, the government has a secret program where they're choosing children from the nursery and putting them into this Scanners program where they are trained to hone their psychic abilities, and they make people's heads pop. Remember that? Scanners is actually a really good 80s movie like this. We covered Scanners not too long ago. Jamie and I, we did it about a year ago. We did a big Scanners analysis. A lot of fun. Classic David Cronenberg 80s movie there. But the most interesting thing about Scanners is that we find out that children have been genetically modified. Do you remember that? There's a specific sequence where the doctor goes and finds out that they're actually genetically modifying. And it's a big, like, secret Defense Department company. I mean, that sounds like what's going on here. That's because they're doing this kind of stuff, right? This is real stuff. And we have, again, the explicit mention that the basis for the program in regard to the mind control element is the suppression of the trauma-based mind control, the creation of alters, all of that's in the show. And if you remember, we did a whole breakdown of Millennium. The X-Files spinoff, Millennium, is a great show. And if you remember, Frank Black's whole process in the 3 seasons of Millennium is figuring out what this whole Millennium thing is. And what does it turn out to be? Spoiler alert. It's a program to take gifted children, mind control them, steer them into becoming the next phase of evolution. So they experiment on them with drugs, with GMOs, with all kinds of stuff, seeing if they'll mutate, evolve into the super being, the Kwisatz right? And what happens in Millennium? Well, we find out that many of the serial killers that Frank Black is on the trail of in the first season, turns out they were put into these programs. And when the programs went awry and it didn't work, the people went nuts, they snapped, they went haywire. They became serial killers. So the serial killers come from MKUltra, and they're the rejects. They're the MKUltra rejects. That was the whole plot of Millennium. Do you remember this? In season 4, Vecna is a serial killer reject from this program. Dave McGowan's thesis, Programmed to Kill. That is Dave's thesis. Now, again, I don't know. This is a theory. So people are always like, "Ooh, conspiracy theorists." I'm going to tell you when I do a theory. Okay, if I'm reading from H.G. Wells and Bertrand Russell, Jacques Attali, and Henry Kissinger, and David Rockefeller, and Zbigniew Brzezinski, that's not a theory. That's objective fact. That those people run the planet, more or less, and they have an open plan. That's not a theory. That's a fact. For those that don't know, slow boys out there that don't know what that means. If I say that it's plausible, possible, that some, perhaps even just a few of the known serial killers could have been part of programs to create assassins, killers, etc., that is plausible. That is a theory. It is a theory about a conspiring group of people to steer and control trained killers. Do you know that that's what the military does? Have you ever heard of the military training killers? That's kind of what they do. So why would that be far-fetched that they might train crazed killers? Now, to me, it's not far-fetched. Is it absolutely demonstrable? No. So it's a theory. And it's a theory based on certain serial killers and certain known famous people like that, right? Having patterns, and that there were, in fact, programs intended on creating super trained killers, super trained psychos. Okay, so we know of at least a couple of those programs that were real by admission. But no, we don't know for sure if Berkowitz and Dahmer and blah, blah, blah were in those programs. Again, that's why it's a theory. A theory. Okay. There's nothing crazy about that. Has anybody ever heard of Murder Inc.? Have you ever heard of this? Okay. A guild of dozens of people who would just go kill people. Famously, a real thing. Now, if Murder Inc. exists, and by the way, they were all a bunch of psychos. I don't know if you know that, but to, call up Al Capone and ask, Uncle Al to call up Murder Inc. to take care of some business, that's psychos. Okay, you're going to find some psychos. And just go look up Murder Inc. Who doesn't? People don't know anything, right? People are just like idiots. They don't know anything. And they didn't know, had no idea there was just like guilds of people that you could call up. Aren't there movies about this? And people don't even know. I'm having to remember my organized crime lectures, right? Dutch Schultz. He's the guy that's the beginning of Murder Inc. Yes, that's right. Now there's that movie with Harvey Keitel. Cotton Club? So you want a movie that references a weird movie too. It's like almost like a musical. Not very good. But if you watch Cotton Club references Murder Inc. Because I want to say, is it Harvey Keitel playing Dutch Schultz? I think that's right. Let's see if that's right. Or if not, it's the other guy who's the psycho, right? These stupid ass gnats are driving me crazy, dude. No, I need the movie. There we go. By the way, Nicolas Cage is in this for like 5 minutes, which is, should have given him a bigger role. Yes. So if you look at, I forgot this is a Coppola movie. It was an experimental movie too. It's weird. It's like, it's got all these dance scenes. It's not very good. Yes, what'd I tell you? A musician named Dixie Dyer begins working with mobsters to advance his career, falls in love with Vera Cicero, girlfriend of Dutch Schultz. So there you go. And then Oni Madden is a real guy. And if you go to the Mob Museum in Hot Springs, I highly recommend you do the lecture, because they will lecture you the whole history of Oni Madden, who was a huge player in setting up the mafia originally back in the 30s, organizing it, helping to structure it. But at that time, it was before it moved, it was actually, did you know the mob was in Hot Springs? And the mob was in Hot Springs because they would all go to the baths, right? What better place to have a mob meeting than the baths, because nobody can sneak a gun in because you're in your birthday suits or whatever, right?
Yes, come on, Christopher. The birthday suit, Christopher.
Tony, the birthday suit, Tony.
Christopher.
But this, by the way, is how British gangsterism, Irish gangsterism ties into helping to set up America's organized crime. And if you read about that over on, all this stuff is just public, right? So just go read about Murder Inc. Now, why am I talking about all that? Well, because the serial killers oftentimes have connections and tie-ins to organized crime and contract killings. Again, nobody ever talks about this, but if you read a lot about this, you'll notice that that trend pops up. So the only reason I brought up all that was because season 4 brings in the serial killer element. And I think they just wanted to cram everything from the 80s and every horror movie from the 80s into this movie. That's partly why they did that. Because it's like, but I do like the idea of, okay, so the serial killer who ends up being number 1 in the program, basically went haywire and is possessed. So that's kind of what it is. Now, he has this line where he's like, no, I'm not actually possessed, but I told all of them that because but he basically is, right? So like he thinks he's this deity. And this reminded me of the J-Lo movie, right? With Vince Vaughn, The Cell, which is actually pretty good. It's a chapter in my, by the way, both Stranger Things and The Cell are chapters in my part 2, because if you remember in The Cell, the serial killer in his inner mental world thinks he's a deity, right? He thinks he's a god. And then J-Lo has to go into his head, right? Just like in Dreamscape or The Matrix or whatever. She goes into his consciousness and she finds his trauma from when he was an abused child. And the abuse is what created the serial killer. Abuse, dissociation, MPD, DID, demonic possession, serial killers. That's like everything that we've talked about here for years and years and years, right? It's all in this. Again, I think they should have just toned down a little bit of like they put too much of this crap into one season. That's my only criticism. Well, that, and there's some obvious propaganda that we can't really get into on this channel, but you know what I'm saying, right? All right, so let's see. I think we covered most of that. Altered states, the float tanks. Yep, covered all that. We got a war games element too, right? We got Ferris Bueller hacking the Pentagon type of stuff going on. That's it's a little much. Throwing in the internet. I guess the internet was new at this time, right? In 1986. They bring in the Men in Black element. Oh, I remember what I was going to tell you about. So the Satanic Panic. So my theory on Satanic Panic is that due to things that have come out that have been declassified, there really was, there were satanic cults, and they really were doing things in the 70s and 80s. Some of these serial killers, we find out, as I've shown you guys in a lot of the talks, they actually were involved in some of these things. And in the Phoenix Program book, we saw that they were training people in alternative religious views and even in occult practices and cannibalism in Vietnam, according to Douglas Valentine's book, to practice cannibalism to terrorize Viet Cong. That was part of the program. Okay. The theory then, again, being that some of these people came back and were off their rocker, still insane. This is where we get the crazy Vietnam vet archetype. Now, given that the government was studying the occult, was studying Satanism, was studying these things, and we have the high-level Satanist Michael Aquino, who started his own Temple of Set, who wrote the Army's psychological warfare doctrine, the essay From Mind War to Psi War. Okay, so there is this element within the deep state of people who take their Satanism and their mind control serious. Again, I'm not saying that everybody, but this element is there. And by the way, Aquino, according to his own confession, was involved in the promotion of the alien mythos. He studied the UFO phenomenon and he studied MKUltra, according to his own claims. Now, he lied about things, so we never know if that's true, but again, we can file that away as possible, according to his own admission. But my view is that there really were satanic cult networks, ritual abuse going on, but that they would hype it up and they would have these fake people make it sound crazy on purpose. Then they could have their fake Martin Orne, False Memory Syndrome Foundation come out and debunk it all. And then it goes away. Right? If you remember, I've seen the whole Geraldo series, right? Geraldo goes crazy with it. It makes it look goofy, right? But no, there is actually some truth to it. And it has come out, right, in certain elements of declassified things. We saw, for example, that there really were tunnels declassified last year or 2 years ago. FOIA request, FBI declassifies that the McMartin preschool had tunnels under it. Well, that was supposed to be all made up. Remember, the media said, oh, it doesn't exist. There's no tunnels. No, actually, there were. It's declassified. What else? I mean, Aquino's own writings. Okay, that's another element in this, which is evidence. The finders, declassified finder stuff. Again, proof of this. Jeff Stein McEffery, similar to the finder stuff. Okay, so this really goes on. How extensive, we don't know. People have different theories, whatever. But again, back to the point of the show. The show has the preppy dude go nuts with it being satanic panic, right? So he's way off because that's not actually what it is. And that's another element that I didn't really care about or care for in the show, is that no, there really was like an element of the satanic stuff that was real. And a bunch of goobers hyped it up. And a bunch of goofy evangelicals believed everything that the hype people said. And that made it look dumb and it made it go away. And it gave the appearance of it being debunked. When all that was debunked was the straw man that wasn't real. That's my theory on that. And just look up Martin T. Orne and the False Memory Syndrome Foundation and how all that fell apart. It was all a big fake fraud thing. It was a big front. Bill Clinton executive order on. Oh, I guess this was declassified under Clinton. Anyway, so if you want to read one of these declassified documents on SRI, you can read this here, remote viewing or whatever. Project Stargate. Studying it. By the way, this is what comes up in Ghostbusters. Remember at the beginning when Bill Murray is shocking that one dude and flirting with the blonde girl? Remember that? That's referencing this stuff. trying to make sure I don't forget anything. Oh, electroshock. That's another element too that I forgot about that. So that comes up too because the handler is electroshocking the children. That's part of Monarch. That comes up in the show in season 4. Let's see what else. They reference the beast. So the character Vecna, it's like a hive mind, and all of the entities, the Mind Flayer and the Demogorgon, they're all sort of extensions of this parasitic, psychopathic entity that we find out, which this kind of surprised me because, again, I mean, Netflix is so heavy on propaganda, and there's a lot of propaganda in this show, but I was surprised to see that the villain, the Beast, believes that humans are a virus and have overpopulated the planet. Did you catch that? That kind of surprised me. I didn't expect that. I mean, because that's true. So, that really is what the villains are up to. So why they put that in this, maybe they slipped it in, I don't know. Maybe it's just gaslighting. I don't know. What do you guys think? Why would they put that in this film? It is electricity does play an interesting element in the show. I'm not exactly sure what I think about that. I mean, in Twin Peaks, electrical disturbances and phenomena signify the presence of the otherworldly forces. So it could be just that, or perhaps there's something deeper that I didn't get in regard to why the electricity is the means by which they communicate from the other side to this side. The light bright, which is in season 1, which comes up again in season 4. I'm not sure. Tell me what you think about why you think that. And if you're watching this later, leave me a comment below. Tell me what you think I missed. I'm not going to go into the Soviet stuff. I think we did a season 3. I think we maybe a boiler room. We talked about season 3. I'm not sure, but somewhere I think I did cover the Cold War propaganda elements in season 3 in the mall. The underground bases. I forgot about deep underground bases. Those are real. There really are underground bases. Alex has talked quite a bit about odd places that you wouldn't expect that have underground bases. And I remember him many years ago mentioning that there's a mall. There is a shopping mall with a DUMB. D-U-M-B, Deep Underground Military Base. We know the Denver Airport. Everybody knows the Denver Airport actually does have an underground base. There's some hotels that actually have underground bases. There is, pretty sure, somebody mentioned a shopping mall. There's a place, I think in D.C., it's mentioned in Bamford's book. Bamford's original Puzzle Palace book mentions Crystal City, something like that. Which there's a whole underground city in DC. Did you know that? I don't know about the Walmarts. I mean, maybe that's Patriot conspiracy stuff. They got an underground base in the Walmart. They're gonna put us in the FEMA camp in the parking lot of Walmart. Remember when Jade Helm came out? What did I say about Jade Helm? This is BS, dude. And who was right? Me. I was right about Jade Helm. You remember we covered that hardcore at the time because Jade Helm, they're going to take us down. Now, it's possible that Jade Helm was a war game for things that might roll out now. Or maybe it was a war game for Kufit or what's going to roll out in the next 10 years. I don't know. But I was 100% right about Jade Helm at the time. Was right about it. Go find my old Jade Helm stuff and you'll see I was right. We have a really good track record here, by the way. Oh, did you notice they brought in the esoteric occult element this season? Now, there have been a little references here and there to some of this, like, you know, my reading of season 1 was Gnostic stuff. Okay, yeah, whatever. But what in Hollywood isn't Gnostic, right? But we didn't really see anything overtly occultic per se, right? Now in season 4, what we get is the sites where the murders occur. Actually, the murder rips a hole in the spiritual realm. So places where people are ritually murdered by this possessed serial killer guy, it creates a portal. And what we find out, spoiler again, the villain is attempting to create more and more portals so that he can bring evil into this domain. It's roughly something biblical to this, I think, that yeah, if murders probably do, open up the possibility of more evil coming in, right? Just like the reverse of that would be the liturgy, which brings life, which brings angelic power, which brings theosis, which brings the divine energies. The converse of that being that evil actions bring down, open up dark energy, dark forces. So, couple positive elements that I didn't expect in this season. So, and yes, again, I can't. There are some propaganda things that I can't go into on YouTube, but you can figure those out. You are all a very high IQ, fast boy audience. You guys are smart. So we got some generous super chats. Thank you so much. Let's get to some of those. No need to really go crazy with tonight because, I mean, that's pretty much what's going on, right? I think that it was worth covering. And I might do I might have to do a part 2 because I don't know where they're going to end it with the last 2 episodes. So I'll probably make this a part 1 and a part 2. The second half of this will be for subscribers over at Jay's Analysis. But like I said, they did bring in the ritual magic elements in this season. The references to the Satanic Panic were odd, but some truths nonetheless. If you want to support the show, be sure and support our sponsor. And our show sponsor is the beloved chalk.com. If you're looking for the best in supplementation, if you want to de-soy yourself, I highly recommend you head on over to chalk.com. That's CHOQ.com. The link is in the show description. And they have a variety of supplements for men and women. But if you're a guy looking for an overall approach to nutrient deficiency supplementation, if you want to boost what's missing, you might start with something like the Daily. The Daily is really good for an overall approach to supplementation. If you're looking for specifics, let's say you want to boost testosterone, there is the Tonkat Ali, which has been proven, scientifically proven, peer-reviewed studies, Tonkat Ali, to actually boost testosterone. I'm a big fan of that one. I like that one quite a bit. If you're looking for mental clarity and focus, Jamie every day takes Shilajit. She's become very partial to the Shilajit. Very popular amongst a lot of even carnivore people find, and keto people find that Shilajit helps them quite a bit if they're just wanting sort of mental clarity and focus. If you're looking for overall boost in energy, I recommend the Action 2.0, which is a great product. And again, remember guys that they are obsessive when it comes to organic quality ingredients, right? Everything is rainforest sourced. Everything is pure extraction with hot water to the nth degree in terms of purity. Like they really, really stress purity in their products. In fact, any of their products is 100% guaranteed to be better than organic. Now, they can't say organic because there's actually a process by saying organic that's less stringent than what they go through. So, again, carnivores, everybody loves the Shilajit still. Even if you're a carnivore, people are taking the Shilajit, which is pretty wild because carnivores are pretty strict, right? But the way that this works, if you want to start experimenting with the chalk, which I highly recommend, you can start out with just a one order, and you use the promo code J50, and that'll give you 50% off. Literally anything over there, 50% off. Every day, Jamie drinks the chocolate. That is a superfood. It literally tastes just like chocolate. It's like chocolate milk. But it's actually a great superfood blend for your morning smoothie or for an evening chocolate milk, whatever you do. I don't know how you be. But however you be, you need to be with this stuff. That's what I'm trying to say, right? I, again, am a fan of the daily. I'm a fan of the Tomcat Elite. That's usually what I do. I alternate between those two. But if you're a girl, you want to balance hormones, that kind of stuff, head on over there and you can get things like the ashwagandha. You can get things like the Irish moss. You can get things like the shilajit. Those are good for that. If you don't want to do the one-time 50% off, you get a little better discount if you want to do the recurring orders. That way you don't have to keep up with, what did I run out with? Oh, I forgot to order the daily. Oh, I forgot to order the Tonka. Now I got to reorder it. No, just set up the recurring order, and that's J53 Life. JAY53 Life. JAY53 Life. LIFE. Those promo codes are in the show description, and you get super duper discounts. So head on over to chalk.com right now. Also support the show through getting my books. You can order part 1 and part 2 from the website. Signed copies over there. Jamie's books. Signed copies of Jamie's books as well. All of her stuff is great. If you want other angles on the pop culture scene, the musicians and so forth, you definitely want Jamie's books. Marvin Falls, $5. Thank you for the Mysteries of the Davidic Covenant Temple lecture. Thank you. Especially the insight about the new heavens and the new earth, the new Jerusalem being the church. Awesome. Yeah, I'm glad you found some insights there. This changes my perspective on Revelation. Exactly. We don't have to fall for end-time doom scenarios. No, it's all a bunch of nonsense. BMX 1966, $20. So this is from a couple days ago. There's some of the super chats I missed. Jay, can you do an impression of two gangsters from Philadelphia having a conversation in a back lane at night? Dude, I don't know. How do people from Philadelphia talk? I mean, how am I going to do that if I literally don't know do they have a recognizable tone in Philadelphia? I mean, I literally don't even know. Let's see what a Philadelphia accent even is. Is it Yankee? I'm assuming it's Yankee. I don't even know. Right? Is it like... okay, Sienna Miller will explain it. No, the Philly accent, one of the most studied dialects. Why is that? I know nothing about this. I know nothing about it. I don't know why are they even interesting? It sounds like it's Yankee. I mean, to me, all Yankees just... They all sound the same to me, every Yankee. But they probably say that about people in the South. Everybody in the South sounds the same. Like when people try to impersonate people from the South, it's the worst, right? And everybody thinks that everyone in the South, everybody in the South looks like me, right? Which nobody in the South actually talks like that. But you guys have heard me explain the difference between Georgia and Tennessee, right? Like if you're from the South, somebody in Georgia, they definitely talk different than somebody from Tennessee. Because Georgia is like, remember when Andy in the Office is talking about the Southern judge for Georgia, and it's sort of like a sort of molasses that just sort of just seeps out of the mouth there. The molasses of the Southern Georgia, that's Georgia, really. And then in Tennessee, it's more like people just like it's right here, and it's really constricted. Tennessee's more constricted because there's people living up in the hills, people living up in the mountains and the hills. I don't live in the mountains. Okay, that's East Tennessee. East Tennessee, by the way, is different from West Tennessee. East Tennessee, that's hillbillies, because it's hills. Okay, West Tennessee, there's farmers, so it's more like the redneck. But, like, if you get up in the hill people, dude, the hill people are crazy. That's some crazy people up in them hills, dude. Watch out for the hill people. I'll put it this way. If I'm driving, okay, I'm wearing what appears to be a redneck shirt right now. By the way, this is actually a Versace shirt. I'm not joking. So I'm not kidding, gave me a gift of a $300, I'm not joking, Versace camo shirt. And I thought it was funny because I said, you know that you could literally drive to any like five and dime stores anywhere in the South, you can find this exact same shirt for $1 or a quarter perhaps. And your dumbass paid $300 for a Versace camo shirt. Anyway, this person thought it was funny and it was a gift. So, and they're not a dumbass. I'm just joking. Okay. So, but yes, someone did. This is actually a gifted. I would not ever pay $300 for this goofy camo shirt. Ever. That's crazy. Somebody gave it to me as a gift. I promise you. How do we get on this? The South? I forget. But hill people. Hill people are crazy now. But it's not just hill people too, because where I'm at, which is woods and flat for the most part, and there's farms over here on this side of the west of Tennessee. It's a different kind of crazy, right? Like if you went up into the hills, it's like that's like the Deliverance type of thing. Crazy around here is you got to go about 30 minutes outside of where I'm at in any direction. And you will find, I got to do the Tennessee stream because everybody, I had an old friend today asking me, hey, I want to move down to Tennessee. Should I move? I don't know. It depends, right? You got to weigh a lot of factors you got to weigh. So I can't just tell you, let's move to Tennessee. I had another friend whom y'all know, actually, many of you people in this audience. We have another friend. I want to move to Tennessee. I'm going to look at Tennessee. Okay. Let's count the cost here. So, I mean, there's really good things about Tennessee, and there's also some things that are not that great about Tennessee. So that's what we got to do a Tennessee stream. That'll be fun. People ask about it all the time. What's Tennessee like? Pros and cons, dude. But it is different kind of crazy. Like if you go 30 minutes outside of where I'm at, it's like trailer park, people with like a whole set of furniture in the yard. Or imagine a trailer, and people don't know what a trailer is, a mobile home, we call them trailers. A trailer park with like a deck and a whole set of furniture on the lawn under the deck. Like just weird, right? And then they'll have like 15 cars that are being worked on in the yard. You will usually see a giant tire. I don't know why, but a giant tire with like flowers or just weeds growing out of it. Just weird, dude. Weird stuff. You start getting 40 minutes out, you're going to be like meth head trailer park. Like not parks, but like meth dudes out in the middle of nowhere. That's where it gets scary, right? You don't want to be there. So is that everywhere? No, it's not everywhere. But if you get like really deep out there, there's some crazy weird people, dude. It's like a movie or something. It's like, what's that movie with Elijah Dushku where she gets stuck out in the middle of nowhere? What is that one? Rabid People. Yeah, like Rabid Child. Yeah. It really is like that around here. I mean, but you got to go a ways out, right? You got to go like 40 minutes out of any town to hit that kind of stuff. Wrong Turn, right? The old one with Elijah Dushku. So you watch the Wrong Turn. There's some places like that in Tennessee. Okay. Yes. Wrong Turn. There's places like that. Now, I mean, it's not that extreme. Like you're not going to get, I would be scared if I got lost. Like if I drove 40 minutes outside of where I'm at and I had a car break down, I would be scared. Even if I'm in camo as a disguised redneck. Like the rednecks would be like, let me see that tag in that there shirt. He's got a damn Versace on. This motherfucker's a damn, right? And they would kill me. So don't wear a Versace camo shirt if you're driving through Tennessee country. Monkeypox, Tennessee. Anyway, I should just explain all this in a Tennessee string. Again, I would never buy a $300 Versace camo shirt. This was a gift. So, if you're a diva celebrity, people give you gifts. They just give you gifts. It's kind of like swag, right? I mean, I'm pretty much like Kourtney Kardashian. Like, I just get swag give to me, right? Just swag. Here, take this camo Versace shirt and disguise yourself as one of the common redneck men, even though it's secretly, I know deep down, I am not a redneck man. This is a Versace camo shirt. Anyway. Oh, how do we get on all that? Philly accent. Okay, I have no idea what this is.
Did you know one of the world's most unique dialects is right here in the Delaware Valley? Yeah, it turns out the Philly accent, not only difficult to imitate, it's one of the most studied. And in case you don't know what we're talking about, allow our assignment editor, Chuck, and former producer, Courtney, to demonstrate.
It's a beautiful snow day.
Tiger Woods hit the ball in the water.
Jeep,
Water?
Philadelphia Crowns.
Friday.
Right.
What? I can't tell what she's saying.
If you didn't hear that, it was Did You Eat Philadelphia Crayons and Friday, according to a famous
Sorry, dude. I can't do a gangster in this bizarre, nondescript accent. I just can't do it. I know you gave me $20, but I'm lost. Sorry, dude. BMX again, 1966, and $10. Jay, how are your eyes holding out, staring at computer screens? What are your settings? I actually think it's messing up my eyes, right? So I'm always, doing like this, and I don't think it's good. That's why sometimes you see me wearing those stupid blue blocker glasses or whatever. But thank you for the super chat. Andrew S. Andrew WK. Psych. Andrew S. $5. I love what you do. God bless. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Excess Fear, $10, and says nothing. Ooh, kind of creepy. Sorry, $5. I had homework, but thank you for putting on a great show. Thank you. It makes my day. Maybe it is a question for Rockfin, but what about... Yeah, come on now. You can't talk about that on YouTube. You better know better than that, boy. But no, I just can't talk about it. Maybe one day over on the Rock. Stony Baloney, $10. I'm digging the soprano jumpsuit in that was that was the opening song. Good. Yeah, I hope you guys appreciate my new R&B track. But that Philly accent, man, what even is that? It's not even cool. At least I could listen to Tony Soprano, right? Do his thing. That's fun to listen to. I can't even tell what that Philly act. What are you even talking about? War. What? At least give me some Boston Retarded, right? I could listen to Matt Damon, Matt Debot, talking about Boston Retarded. I could listen to that because it's ridiculous. But that Philly accent left something to be desired. That was a big nothing burger. Where are we at? Super chats. Yeah, I bought that jumpsuit at a thrift store just because I thought it was so ridiculous. It actually, if you look at the whole tracksuit, it looks like something that a John McEnroe would wear. It's a tennis tournament or something, right? It actually doesn't look mafia at all, but it's like the closest thing other than my polo thing to like a mafia tracksuit. So I don't know. I was just going for 90s windbreaker, Color Me Bad. So that was the closest thing I had. Rap, $5. Can you freestyle about Tom Coombe? Maybe I'll make a song about Tom Coombe. Jamie suggested I do my next song be a funk style about Funko Pops. And then maybe I should do a rap about Tom Coombe. That could be fun. Exosphere, $50. Wow. Man, thank you so much. Making tonight's show all worth it. Right there with big fat super chats. He says, I love all the content. God bless. Well, thank you. See, somebody out there understands what's going on. Somebody out there. If we just get one dude who likes all the content and gives $50, and there you go. Thank you so much. Jethro, $15. Shout out to Jethro. Thanks so much. He says, thank you for the Stranger Things stream, JD. The chat was wanting you to cover Journey's Separate Ways for the season 4 trailer as Osho. I'm not a Journey fan, so I mean I know who Journey is, but I don't know Journey songs. So I'd have to listen to it, but I can't play it. Let me make a note since you gave me a super chat to try to do Journey in Osho. That's gonna be tough. Journey in Osho voice. Journey Separate Ways. I'm sure it's one of the Journey songs that I've heard a million times, but I don't listen. That's boomer stuff. They don't listen to Journey. But Osho voice. Okay, so I'll have to try to remember to do that for you next time I do a live stream. Jethro, thank you so much. Since you gave me $15, gotta do it. Theoria Zone, $10. Have a great summer. This is gonna be R&B, dark R&B rap summer, right? What do y'all think? Where's my song at? Well, I won't be able to hear it if I play it. Gossiping. Gossiping.
On the beat.
Girl, why you backbiting?
All right, faked y'all out. I'm not gonna play the whole song. But now, Pay Piggy. A lot of people were skeptical. They were like, I don't think he can follow up Pay Piggy. And I'm like, give me a chance to win your love. Give me one chance to get inside your heart and pull your heartstrings. Right? Did I? I mean, it's pretty good. Of course, R&B sucks. Dude, everything I'm doing is because it's rap sucks, R&B sucks, everything sucks. Rock and roll sucks. Everything sucks. But my cringecore. So what is this music you're making? It's called cringecore. Just dubbed it that. Hashtag cringecore. Somebody said, what if you get more famous for your cringecore music than any of the other goofy stuff you've done? Wouldn't that be ironic, right? That'd be weird. Who knows? But the world hasn't discovered this stuff yet. Gossiping. I mean, those came out of nowhere, dude. I feel like we could roll these out. Right? Like I feel like we could churn out quite a few of these. We got a Tom Coombe rap song requested. We got a Funko Pop funk song requested. I think we might be onto something. We'll see. But as to what kind of summer Theoria Zone, it's going to be a gossip summer. Gossiping. And a Pay Piggy summer. That's what I think. Orpheus, $5. Would you say the correct mainstream alphabet culture? Do you mean alphabet agency, or do you mean like SJW, QP, whatever? What do you mean? Are they aspects of MKUltra? Yes, I think that all of modern pop culture in some way will have some association, either direct or indirect, via MKUltra. So yes, and done many talks on that, many podcasts on that. If you watch the MKUltra talks that we've done, I think you would find that to be the case. So I agree with that thesis. Orpheus, yes. JML, $40. Thank you so much. All these fat super chats. A famous Hebrew scholar wrote a book in 2019 analyzing the gospel elements in Stranger Things. I mean, I think you could find some Christian themes, sort of. But I just feel like it's more Gnostic. I feel like sometimes people, too, they don't really know Christian religion or Orthodox Christianity. So they might actually think that they're doing something quasi-Christian and not even realizing that it's just default Gnostic. I think that happens a lot too. I mean, a lot of Protestants they're Gnostic, they don't even know it. So that could be going on too, but I don't know about this person's book. But I kind of feel like you're saying Dr. Heiser. Dr. Heiser has a book about Stranger Things? If the show's content is MKUltra, what should I think of that kind of interpretation? Well, I haven't read Dr. Heiser's book. You said it's called World Turned Upside Down. I mean, again, he might be pulling certain elements and saying, here's some Christian themes. But ultimately, I think it's Gnostic. I mean, anyway, but again, I haven't read the book, so I'm sorry. I just can't really comment beyond that. Greek Groiper, $3. But thank you so much, JML, for that super chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you for your channel. One of the reasons that I stayed Orthodox and didn't go Roman Catholic was that you strengthened my faith in the church, and I'm grateful for that. Awesome. Glad to hear that. What is your opinion of the Groip and all of that? I don't have any negative views of the political scene and sphere. I don't get involved in the political side of stuff. I do kind of macro scale geopolitical analysis. So I haven't been involved I was involved in the Rand Paul campaign in 2010? I don't even remember when that was. So that was the last time that I was actually involved in straight up politics. Now I will comment on stuff. Do people invite me on channels? I'll give my opinions on various things, but like actively, being interested in involved in somebody's campaign, I'm just not into that anymore. I think as you get older, you kind of like, not knocking people that are into politics. I don't care if you want to be in the politics, that's your thing. But as you get older, I think you realize that politics doesn't really matter unless it's the local level. So maybe you can achieve things at the local level, and that's your thing. Go for it. But would I join other networks? I mean, I'm pretty tight with Rockfin. Everybody should know. Like, I have a pretty close kind of connection deal with Rockfin when it comes to content platform, creator-based content platforms. So it doesn't really make sense for me to go on all these different platforms. So I'm not knocking other platforms. It's just that I'm interested in Rockfin. They are great to me. They treat me really well. And so I'm interested in supporting those guys. And remind you guys too, want spicier takes, exclusive content, get on over to my Rockfin. It's free to subscribe. The unique thing about Rockfin is that when you sign up on Rockfin, there's free content you can sign up for, which everybody has. But the thing about Rockfin is that it's kind of like Netflix, where if you sign up for the paid $10 thing, I think it's $10 a month, you get access to everybody. So it's a genius model to where the creators don't have to compete against each other. I'm not trying to take down Richard Grove or anybody or Isaac or whoever. We all actually are incentivized to work together because everybody benefits from the $10 that gives access to everybody. That's genius. Then on top of that, if you want to support your individual creators, you can do that through super chats or tips. So, I mean, just perfect idea. Rockfin has been opening up to more and more people. So I love Rockfin. Big fan of Rockfin. That's not going to change. And so while I appreciate, and I get a lot of invites to come over here on this platform, come do this. Hey, I'm on Rockfin. They treat me great. So that's what I say. Braden Rice, will you do Billy Graham and the Sylvester Stallone for the Philly?
Yeah, you got the rat buggies. That what you're gonna do down here with Dennis Leary, the rat buggies.
Right. That's if you watch Demolition Man and he finds Dennis Leary leading the underground revolution, and they eat rat burgers. And then,
won't you come down to the altar? We've got hot pizza here. If you come down and say the sinner's prayer, why, I'll give you a hot popping slice of cheese. Perhaps you'd like a dripping piece of pepperoni pizza. If you come down and say the sinner's prayer here with me, I'm Billy Graham. I'll give you a hot slice of pizza.
How's that? Remember when I posted that video, like nobody understood what that was. I had like, that was a stupid old video I did like 8 years ago. And it had like, maybe not 8 years ago, maybe 6 years ago. It was like one of the first videos I put up and had like 100 thumbs down and like 30 thumbs up. And I'm like, who worships Billy Graham so much that a stupid impression, like why would that even make you mad? That's weird. People are weird, dude. It's just like that old Paul Washer video where I was doing impersonation of Paul Washer, and it's like just like hundreds of Calvinist evangelical hate comments, right? like that video had like 300 thumbs down and like 100 thumbs up, right? Why are you so mad about impressions, dude? People are nuts, man. That just makes me, by the way, want to do it more. So, thank you guys so much. A lot of fun. If the final 2 episodes are noteworthy and have some significance, I'll do a part 2. If not, this will function, right, as, I guess, the full Stranger Things analysis. Because as I said, when I started this show, actually, I didn't realize when I was going to do this kind of impromptu live stream. First of all, I didn't realize it was coming out this soon, the 4th season. And then I thought it was the full 4th season, and it's not. There's still 2 more episodes. So all of that confused me. I didn't know what was going on. But the Dreamscape, Inception, Brainstorm, and others stream will be probably up next. For subscribers, up next to do is part 2 of City of God. So don't worry, guys. No, I've not forgotten. We're going to do part 2. For those that were looking for more of the City of God's, or the Augustinian theology critique, over on Rockfin, I did a 3-hour stream, taking it to the next level. Okay, we went beyond the original sin debate. We went into the straight up Trinitarian problems. So 3-hour live stream, audio and text over on Rockfin.